Good evening, everybody, and a cup of tea. It's your second cup of tea with Geo Gonzo this week. We are spoiling you. Unlike West Ham United, we are spoiling you. We're giving you a little bit of a treat. Gonzo, how are you this evening?
I am very well. Thank you very much. Windswept and hurried, but I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Is your shed cold? You've got a body warmer on you. Feeling it chill?
Well, I haven't had any time to toast it up. I haven't had time to put it on, and I have literally just run in, as you know. So I'll strip off as we go. Maybe one garment with every question or something like that. We'll spice it up a bit.
And that's why we're only taking 2 questions this evening.
Well, 2 socks. That's 2 socks.
Before we get into this video sponsored by One Football, you know who they are now. They're the free football app for every football fan, more importantly West Ham fans, because you can restrict what you see on the app. You choose the content you see on your One Football timeline. Think of social media combined with football, because that's what it is. You go on there and you see what you want to see. You filter out all the other stuff. Basically, if you're going on Gonzo's Twitter, you'd see everybody's tweets, but you wouldn't see anything about Brexit, for example, because he's filtered that out. And that's what you can do with One Football app, and it's completely free. That's the best bit. Trust me, I'm Scottish. I wouldn't have this app if you had to pay for it, okay? The link is in the description. Get downloading it and get filtering out your timeline on One Football. Because I thought we could start with something completely different than the manager stuff, okay? Because, well, it's everywhere, isn't it? Now, this stuff isn't necessarily positive. It's a distraction. Do you want to start with the distraction?
I do, yes please. Yeah, something different, definitely.
It ties into the manager stuff, unfortunately, and that's where it becomes a bit depressing. But transfer rumours are back. January is just round the corner. 6-7 weeks away. I think there's 7 weeks to go of the year. So it's just round the corner. And there's 2. We've got two rumours. 2 rumours to get us going. But we do a cup of tea every fortnight. They're going to start building. So the first one was a striker from Genk in the Belgian league that came out during the week before we got thumped by Burnley. Samata. He plays up front. 25 league goals last season. You ever heard of him?
No. I was going to say, what's the matter with you?
Well, I'm actually scared of what's going to happen if someone puts in a question, to be honest with you. But I've heard of him, but only because I gamble. If I didn't gamble, i.e. didn't do goal scorers in European football, I would never have heard of him. I've never seen him play. I didn't even know what he looked like. I've seen a picture of him. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that was him last season.
What does he look like?
Like a small Lukaku.
A small Lukaku.
He does. He looks like a small Lukaku. But don't tell
him. He's from Tanzania, actually, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but don't tell anyone I said that. Otherwise, the FA might give me a Bernardo Silva punishment. I might get a 1 cup of tea ban and a £5 fine to be equivalent.
Yeah, they'll take your hobnobs away.
They might do.
I think he might even be African Player of the Year, Gio.
Interesting. I didn't know that, but it wouldn't surprise me. He does score regularly. If you're into gambling like I am, put him on your list, because if he's ever above evens, he's worth putting in your goal scoring accumulator if you do one, because he scores every other week for them. But we've seen this with Belgian footballers, or should I say, we've seen this with footballers in Belgium before, haven't we? Where they do score goals. Wesley at Villa's sort of prime example at the minute, isn't he? He's scored goals over there, he's come over here and he's done okay, but he's not exactly, you're not looking at thinking, oh, we've missed a trick not getting him, are you?
Wesley, no, because I don't feel he's torn it up, but I think you're going to have that risk with any sort of player. And this guy, although he had a good season last season, I think he scored 20 goals in 28 games. The season before, he'd only scored 4 goals in 20 odd games. So you're going to get that inconsistency with any player that you're not, unless you're going to go and buy an absolute top-notch striker, which obviously we're not going to do because we've spent our striker money. Then you're going to be gambling. But you'd certainly rather have gambled on Wesley rather than 40 odd million on Joe Linton, for instance.
Yeah, quite. I don't think we can afford this guy. I think it would cost more than Ayeti cost. Considering Wesley cost 25 million or something, I think he's probably not far off that price actually. So you'd be looking at almost 20. I think he'd cost about 20 million. Can't see us pay £20 million for a second striker and then relegating Ayeti to the third striker, who's then a £10 million player. I can't see much in this one. But one That does sort of make sense, and I'll see if you think it's good or not. Matic, Manchester United's Jose Mourinho's long trusted defensive midfielder, 31 years old now, on his way out of Old Trafford, looking for a January move ahead of Euro 2020, so he keeps his place in the national side. Would you like him at West Ham?
It's funny actually because we just signed up for a Build a Bear with my daughter. It's Build a Bear. You basically you take them out and it's whatever, an afternoon out, and you go to a workshop and they build a teddy bear. So they pick the fur, they pick the arms, the legs, the eyes. He basically put this teddy bear together. If I could put together a footballer and build a footballer that we don't need, it would be this bloke, right? Honestly. So I would think, a big old lump, tick. We don't need that. Okay. Somebody that's not particularly good at passing, tick. We don't need that. Somebody that's slow, tick. We don't need that. Somebody that's old, tick. We don't need that. I mean, he ticks every box that you don't want ticked. It's a terrible link. It's got to be rubbish. I cast my mind back to when... Actually, I was going to lay the blame at Sullivan. I'm not sure he said it. Somebody said our days of signing 30-year-old players are done. They're gone. We're not going to do that anymore.
It was
it? Okay.
Then we signed Nasri.
There we go. So I will blame him with your help. No, this is all wrong. Everything about this is wrong. He can't even get in a Man United team, for goodness sake.
Well, I'm not surprised with McTominay in there.
Brilliant. Hey, there you go. He's worse than McTominay. Why do we want to buy him?
He's I don't want Matic either. The only box he does tick is he's left-footed, and it's not even that much of a. It's not really high up on the priority list, is it? So it's like not even a desirable. If he comes left-footed, it's an added bonus. That's all it is. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I mean, our midfield is missing one thing at the minute, and that's someone athletic. This guy is completely opposite. He's 31 as well. He's only going to get slower. He's only going to cover less ground. He's only going to get worse. I do think his passing's good, though. I do like Matic's passing, okay? But he's not that good in order to justify having someone slow in midfield. He's not Pirlo. He's not going to get the ball and receive it from all angles and start pinging it across the pitch to people. I can't see this one being true. I think it's a bit of a lazy rumour. But I'm going to start a lazy rumour of my own. I'm not going to start a rumour. I'm going to throw a name out there that's not been linked to West Ham. But I like to do this sometimes, don't I? I like to say to you, 2 and 2 together, and this could make 4. I wouldn't be surprised we get linked to him before January. Granit Xhaka. After all that, he's on his way out of Arsenal. Stripped of captaincy. Emery's basically said he's never going to play for Arsenal again. So he's got to go in January. I think that opens a door of opportunity. You either get him cheap or you get him on loan. Would you like him at West Ham?
Yeah, he seems alright. He's got a long shot on him, that's for sure. They like him to shoot, don't they? Well, I say they like him to shoot. They don't like him to do anything anymore. I think he was harshly treated. Actually, I think he was very, very harshly treated. I expect a lot more. I think. Than from professional footballers in general. I think they're very, very highly paid. The mantra that they have short careers has never washed with me because, as I say, actually short career is half the career of everybody else's. Everybody else has to finish working at 67. They finish at about 33. If you're going to do that, then they get paid twice as much because then they don't. They get paid more in 1 week than anybody else gets paid in a year, right? And then some. So they're pampered. Big time Charlies, overpaid, underperforming. There's a lot I don't like about footballers, but I don't see why anybody should take the kind of abuse that he said about his sister, about his mum getting cancer, and about all this sort of stuff. I don't think I'd be able to take it. I think if you give me 30 quid, I wouldn't take it. I think if you give me 130 grand a week, I wouldn't take it. It's all very well to say, oh yeah, do you know what I mean? I'm rich, I've got a mansion, I've got a Lamborghini or whatever, I don't care, I can take all that stuff. I don't think there's any point at any time that I would take any level of personal abuse. And he got so much personal abuse, he's had it for such a long time. particularly that Arsenal lot, by the way. You know what I mean? It's funny, isn't it? They don't make an awful lot of noise. They make a lot of noise on camera. They make a lot of noise when they're booing people and all the rest of it. And even their away fans are quite quiet, to be perfectly honest with you, as well. And that's normally where your fans are at their noisiest. And I don't actually blame him for wanting out of there. And I understand that they perhaps wanted him to get off the pitch more quickly. But I think if you've taken abuse from your own fans for any level of time, I sort of don't mind him cupping his ear. It's very different to the Sam Allardyce cupping of the ear, by the way. As I just think when it gets personal, when it gets nasty, when you're having death threats, which is what he was getting, no, I don't blame him. And I actually, if I was a player in that instance, I would want more support from my club. I want more support from my teammates. I want more support from my manager. And I feel because they don't want to upset the fans even further, they've thrown him under a bus. Well, do you know what? They're Arsenal fans. They're upset anyway. You can't upset them any. Have you seen the state of them? I mean, you can't upset them anymore, really. Let's be fair. So, welcome to West Ham. You can come and join our mob if you want. I'm sure someone will pay him a comparable wage.
Yeah, so we're not even linked to him. It's just a name. I agree. With
right. Oh, sorry. I should have. Can we edit that bit out?
It's just me making it out. It's just me making it up. I think we will be linked to him, though. I think we will be linked to him before the January transfer window, because I think the most feasible move for him in January is a loan. And if you read what we're sort of being hinted at already, is that we don't have much money to spend, but we know from the summer that we've got to have a lot of wages saved. So it would make sense for us as well to go after somebody that we can get in on loan, that's got the experience, that has clearly got a lot of ability as well. And we just spoke about a striker actually getting in the Swiss national I'm sure he's a captain of Switzerland, getting in the Swiss captain to play behind our Swiss striker is possibly not a bad idea either. They might just help each other. I don't know. They're friends, might not even know each other that well, but they've certainly played together for their national country, so that can only be a bonus. I would like him in. He's a yellow card every single game, but I've actually missed seeing someone kick people from the other team. We're too often this season we've just laid down and let teams run through us. He doesn't allow that, and I actually think the very first time when he got subbed, whoever they were playing, Palace I think it was, they were playing at home, when he got subbed and he started walking off, I actually think that was him looking at Emery as if to say, why are you taking me off again? Because a lot of Arsenal fans were saying actually he was having a good game, but they took him off to make a tactical switch and get another attacking player on. But I think he was just sort of thinking, why am I the one coming off? I'm the captain here, I'm playing well, you're taking me off, so I'm going to walk off. I think it was almost started off as a protest against the manager, and it turned out to be a protest against Arsenal Football Club and the fan base and stuff. So I think I feel a bit sorry for him. But he's got a point to prove. Wherever he goes next, he's got a massive point to prove. He needs to keep that captain's armband for Euro 2020. And I think West Ham have an opportunity to take a low-risk signing. If it doesn't work out, you send him back in the summer. If it does work out, brilliant. And you then need to cough up the money and arrange something with Arsenal for the summer. Away from transfers, though, bad news, though. Lanzini, broken collarbone, out for months by the sounds of it. 3 months maybe. And Mark Noble's ankle's supposed to be worse than initially feared, and he's touch and go for the Spurs game. So when it rains it pours.
Yeah, bad news for our midfield. Just generally, I went and did a podcast with the Three Hammers last night, which was very, very enjoyable, and we touched on the possible combinations on what the midfield three might consist of, and whichever way you shake it around, it don't look healthy. It's like rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. Do you know what I mean? It's a futile exercise, totally irrelevant in many respects, because whatever three you come up with, it ain't clever. We were in trouble in midfield. Midfield I thought was the most dysfunctional part of the team. Anyway, I know other people may have their ideas on game by game basis about wide positions and whatnot, but actually as an area of the pitch, it's not doing very well. And that was when we had the choice of everyone. Quite what we think a midfield three of Declan Rice, Sanchez and Jack Wilshere might be doing against Tottenham. We may well be very surprised. I noticed for Tottenham as well, Ndombele had got into the team, played well. I think he disappeared out the team. But Pochettino likes to get people out of the team as well and get them playing within his style, the style that he likes to play. Would not be surprised if he's wheeled back in and has an absolute world-class one, because actually he has got all the qualities that we lack in midfield, which is the energy, the athleticism, and the long-range passing. So, yeah, not very good news with those injuries, mate.
Anyway, we're now going to move on to the questions, because there's quite a few of them from on YouTube and on Twitter and stuff, and then we'll be interacting in the live chat as well. We're heading on to them early because there's plenty of them, and a lot of the questions point us in the directions of subjects which we could have discussed, but rather than discussing and ignoring questions, it was best just to let you lot guide us. So I've got a few that will pop up on the screen, and I've got a few on my phone, then we'll turn to the live chat. So starting with Twitter, William Field, with a lack of transfer budget handed to our manager since the move, 2018 aside, which was only a result of media and fan pressure, would a manager who's used to having a smaller budget make more sense, like Chris Wilder or Lee Johnson, as two examples?
It would probably make more sense, Will, but I think it would almost be the final nail in the coffin as far as the fans' frustration with the club was concerned. It would be the final rubber stamp that actually the 10-point plan, all our reasons for moving, are actually complete rubbish. And no, now what we're doing is we're going for a pragmatic coach, and we're going to cut our cloth, and we're going to scrimp and save. We're going to duck and dive. We're going to wheel and deal. And so our budget is low. And because our budget is low, here is your manager, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Pulis or whatever. So I think it would be the final, almost the last straw in terms of any pretense that West Ham was going to improve or a club on the up. I think you'd probably reinforce everybody's suspicion, not everybody, but some people's suspicion that actually we're a club on the way down.
I've got sort of two answers here for him, because one, I think those two managers he mentioned are good managers, and I wouldn't mind them at West Ham, but it's not because they're used to working with like low budget squads, if you like, because we don't have a low budget squad. If Pellegrini left tomorrow, we don't need to get in someone who works with low budget. They won't be signing the players, because you can be damn sure that David Sullivan will be taking that role back on immediately and pointing out Husillos and saying, well, he failed, director of football doesn't work, so I'm taking it back. And two, I do think we've got a squad that is expensive. It's expensively assembled. We've got £45 million striker, a £42 million winger, 20 million centre back. So we don't need somebody who's used to sort of working with championship players in the Premier League, because that's not what we've got available. We've got Premier League players available, so it's sort of different. Hopefully that answers his question. But I don't think we need to get in a low budget manager, but certainly a manager who knows how to maximise his squad regardless of what budget he works with. Failed shot. Now I like this question. This is a good question. Failed shot at Dartmoor Legend says, have we missed the perfect opportunity to sack Pellegrini? International break, so time to get a man in and hope to Spurs as the next match. Just imagine how pumped everyone would be with a new manager for that game.
I think yes. I think that would have been a very good opportunity in terms of time. But I also do understand they've got him in on a big budget, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, or they have allowed him to buy players. I know the last net spend's not particularly good, but they have allowed him to bring players in. And I can't change my mind now. I've maintained whenever we do badly, I always say this is Pellegrini's squad. Forget that one or two might be left over. This is his squad. This is what he wants. This is his idea of a first team. He's signed lots and lots of players. So with that in mind, I can totally understand why they don't want to give him the chop just now. I understand why they'd want to give him 2 or 3 more games. And I would understand it, but unfortunately, because of what's happened before, I'm paranoid that he won't just be allowed 2 or 3 more games if he loses. Actually, I worry that they might give him 7 or 8, and that would be too late. But yes, I understand what he's saying in terms of the international break. It gives him a new manager 2 weeks to work with players. Yeah, quite possibly, but that was always going to be too early for our board.
I think it is a perfect opportunity. I think they would have got a lot of plaudits from the fan base. The problem is they would have got a lot of plaudits from half the fan base. I do think there's a lot of the fan base not giving up on Pellegrini. Yeah, I'm not feeling the whole with Slav. You felt majority was against Slav. You felt the majority was almost fed up with David Moyes. I am not getting that vibe with Pellegrini yet. I think there's a lot of people clinging on it and hoping and maybe even expecting him to turn it around a little bit. I've seen people come up with good sort of arguments and say, hang on, it doesn't matter who we get in, Roberto's still going to be Roberto. He's not going to turn into Ederson regardless of who the manager is. So I thought, okay, things like that are valid. So I don't think it's sort of a massive campaign of Pellegrini out. But there was a question, I've not wrote it down, I missed it, but there was a question. Someone said something about, can you imagine what it's going to be like at the London Stadium if Spurs score first? And I think, well, we know what it's going to be like. The place is going to be ringing out with boos. Everyone's going to get really angry and stuff. And I think that might be when a lot of people, when the majority are then Pellegrini out who lose to Spurs. I think the Spurs one is massive for him. So I do think they missed the perfect opportunity, though, in terms of the timeline, if you like. And if we lose to Spurs, a lot of people are going to turn around to the board and say, you had your chance 2 weeks ago to get him out and get someone else in. You didn't do it. So it's a difficult one for the board. Actually, I actually sympathise with them because they can't really win here. Whatever they do, they're going to piss off a large part of the fan base, whether they back him or sack him. They can't really win. Next question from Twitter. Irons Boy 1966. Who is your first choice manager to replace Pellegrini if he were to get sacked?
I don't have one. A few names have resonated with me. I mentioned yesterday, I really like the suggestion of Arteta. I do like that. I think that is the complete opposite of Pellegrini. Not in style of football per se, but actually I made the point yesterday in my video that if you get him, you have to get him now. You can't wait for him to get his second job. His second job, he doesn't come to us. He has to come for his first job. He's highly regarded. And as I say, it's the opposite to Pellegrini, who was at the end of his career and had all his career behind him. This guy's got all his career in front of him as an understanding the English game. I liked that one. I mentioned with the Three Hammers last night. I like the Gerrard one because he's a leader. Whatever David Moyes would come in and do, I think Gerrard would come in and do. I think he's got that sort of steely glare about him. I think he's no nonsense. I don't think he'd take any nonsense at all. But I also think you're probably going to get other stuff as well with Gerrard. He's at the start of his career. But like I say, you won't get him. The only chance West Ham, and I'm not saying that he would necessarily leave Rangers, but I know Rangers have got a very, very small budget. Bearing in mind, I'm on a podcast with a Scotsman. It's not for me to talk about what's going on with Rangers or Scottish football. But I don't think we get Steven Gerrard in his third job, so to speak. So I think you've got to strike while the iron's hot. I don't think you can wait for too many of these people to prove themselves. And but I almost get tempted a little bit by Benitez. Actually, no, we should be once bitten, twice shy, because if we're going to say that Pellegrini, one of the reasons it hasn't worked out, he's at the end of his career and he was on retirement in China, then I think the last thing we do is go and get somebody who's in China for the money, which does bring you back to what I said about Arteta. That is completely different. So if you don't go for the Rafa Benitez one, and you don't go for the young up-and-coming one like Arteta or Gerrard, then you really are looking for a safe pair of hands. But or you're into the realms of an up-and-coming manager in a foreign league, of which I'm not the man to talk about that because I just don't really know of any.
My main one, and it's probably a bit unrealistic. My number one when Pellegrini took over is now at Leicester, so that's gone. But my main one now is a touch on the unrealistic side. But it's Erik ten Hag, who's the Ajax manager. I do think at some point he's not done it yet, but I think he's almost taken Ajax as far as he can. He's almost plateaued with Ajax. And there's only so much money in Dutch football. There's only so much there. I've watched your videos when you're saying about our board, we're not that attractive and stuff. But I do think the one thing we have that will make us attractive to majority of managers is money. And that is personal salary. We can triumph a lot of other leagues in the world of football, and we can attract them over here. And he would be my number one choice. Will he come to West Ham? It depends. Depends on how he wants to test himself. Does he want to stay in a Dutch league where there's only really two teams competing for the title, isn't there? Themselves and PSV. He's lost a couple of his main players already with De Jong and De Ligt and stuff, and you'd imagine Ziyech will be this summer. You'd imagine a lot of people will be looking at Ziyech or Van Beek as well, or Dest. To be honest with you, if Ten Hag came to West Ham, I would be praying he took Dest with him. He's an 18-year-old, 19-year-old right back. I've only seen him a few times, but by God, he looks bloody good. But he's also someone that's used to working with young players. He's used to working with 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds with high expectations, like the Champions League last season as well. So he knows what it's about. He knows how to get the best out of the youngsters as well. He knows how to, his philosophy of football. Did you watch Chelsea Ajax a couple of weeks ago?
No, I know it was 4-4.
It was unbelievable. The football was just by both teams, by Lampard as well. Okay, the football by both teams was just fantastic. It was mouth-watering to watch. And Ajax were doing it last season as well on the big stage. He would be my number one choice. My number two, and this is the cheap option for the board, is the same guy who was probably my number two last year. I say last year, after Moyes. Can you remember who it was? I'm testing you here.
No.
Rodgers was my number one. My number two. I think he's out of work. I'm pretty certain he's still out of work. David Wagner.
I was gonna say him, but when you said expensive.
No, he's not. No, not he. He's the cheap option. He's the cheap option for the board. David Wagner. That would be my number two. But I do like the idea of Lee Johnson at Bristol City as well. But yeah, Erik Ten Hag. If you want to go get a big name, go get him. And I don't just mean because he's got a lot of letters and a lot of spaces and stuff. But
yeah, the trouble is they won't know who he is. Our board probably think he's an ice cream.
Well, possibly. Right, the next question from Twitter is from Ben Chambers. Why is there a feeling among West Ham fans that Pellegrini will be removed as manager? He, David Sullivan, won't pay the money to take the club forward, let alone pay money to sack someone that he appointed. Well,
plainly and simply because sacking him is far cheaper than getting relegated. Sullivan has a master plan, and that's to sell the club. He ain't selling the club in the Championship. No, he's not selling the club in the Championship. He's going to find it very, very hard for us to get promoted for reasons that I detailed, with that stadium just not being an intimidating place for other Championship clubs to come, and the fact that it will be half full. It'll just be a horrible, horrible place. I think I just think we could stay in that division for a long, long time. I think Sullivan knows that. I think he's nobody's fool. And if it looks like we are going to go down, which is what we're talking about sacking Pellegrini. I don't think he'll sack Pellegrini if it looks like we're going to stay up. No, I don't. But that's really the thing. If it looks like we're going to go down, will he sack Pellegrini? The answer is yes. Okay, so if we lose our next 3 games, will it look like we're going to go down? Yes. The table will say that. The table will be screaming at us, you're going down. By that point, we'll look at the form. We probably won't have won in 10 games, a quarter of the season. You know, that's what happened. At that point, he will sack him because he will not be able to sell the club. And he won't be, and he certainly won't bankroll the club to come back up.
But he could sack him and still get relegated, though.
Well, of course he could. But he's going to want to. He wants to avoid relegation. Well, you know, what are you going to do?
I think he also wants to avoid sacking him, though.
Yeah, I know. But if he's money motivated, what's he more bothered about? 20 million or 180 million?
But then, at what point, how long does he go until he thinks, okay, my 180 million is at risk here?
Well, I think in another 3. If we lose our next 3 games, I think at that point he thinks, oh crikey, okay. And I get what everybody's saying about him waiting until after January so he don't spend the money. And I don't disagree. I know what Sullivan's like. Crikey, anyone that listens to me speak about the board, you know, I'm not here defending the guy. I understand what Sullivan's like, but he is a rich man. He also is a pragmatist, and he's not going to want to see his project. He knows that the Olympic Stadium move is not working out. I do believe that when they said that we'd get top 4, I think they believed it. I think they honestly believed that the best thing for West Ham was to move out of Upton Park and to move here. That they believed that. It's not. It hasn't been, and the experiment has failed. But I tell you what, it will go down in the footnote of history if what that guy does. If he thinks Burnley protests were bad, right? If he thinks that was bad, you try moving us out of our spiritual home to that place, to an athletic stadium, and then getting us relegated where we get stuck in a Championship. I'm telling you now, it would be tenfold what you saw before, honestly, and he knows it. and he knows it. And you know what? I in many respects, not for the move, but for trying to appoint Pellegrini or someone like him. I applaud his ambition to pay somebody 8 million a year in there. I applaud that. I just wish he had more football savvy people around him to have actually informed him who the up and coming one is. I think it probably also is worth pointing out that he did offer Klopp the job at one point. It is worth remembering that we did offer Klopp the job after Dortmund. So I just don't think he's a fool. I don't think he's a fool. I think if it becomes clear and something's going on at West Ham, it might be in a dressing room, it might be something else, the manager, there's a dynamic in a training ground, in a dressing room, in a manager, whatever, between the director of football. We don't know exactly what it is. There's a dynamic. Something's not right. And if it ain't fixed really quickly by something drastic, by the way, then we will continue slipping down the table, and that's why I think he'll do something.
I think if we lose the next 3, I think we'll see some action. But like I said, I think we'll win one, draw one, lose one as an average over the next 15 games or something. I think it'll be enough just to keep him ticking over, if you like. And you're right. He did offer Klopp the job, but that's the problem. He tried, and we've heard this far too many times. It's 10 years in January since he's been here, and it's almost like if someone said to me, sum up their reign as West Ham chairman, I would say they tried, and I mean that very sarcastically as well, because listen, offering Klopp £1 a year is still offering Klopp a job, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying he offered him £1 a year, obviously. My point is, he didn't offer him, or he wasn't able to attract him to the club. So it's all very well identifying, but you've also got to attract, and he wasn't able to do the latter, which is the real problem, actually. Identifying is the easy part, I would argue. it's quite easy to ring up a few people who know football and say, who's the next best manager? I'm sure within 2 hours of phoning around the right people, he would get a consistent name. He would get someone's name that kept popping up. He'd go, okay, there's my man. But then the problem is actually going and get him to West Ham United. We're getting reminded this week that we tried to get Brendan Rodgers out of Celtic a couple of years ago. Well, here's the problem. We didn't. Leicester City did. Okay, there's a difference. Okay, why would he go to Leicester but not West Ham? I suggest he goes and has a little look in the mirror when he's thinking about that question, because that is the only difference. It's not the ground, it's not the league, it's arguably not even the transfer budget. That only leaves one thing, and that is the manager's employers. So why is there a feeling, going back to Ben's question, it's because of David Sullivan's, in my opinion, it's David Sullivan's history of spending money, and sometimes it doesn't exist. So I think people are looking at, there's no way he's going to spend it. But I get what Gonzo's saying. I do think Gonzo's right. If we lose the next 3 games, I think we will see and hear a completely different tune altogether. But there will be consequences, I think. So if Pellegrini goes, all this talk of Mourinho, I think you can forget it, because Sullivan's tried the expensive manager route and it's not worked out. He's not going to want to get his fingers burnt twice. He's not going to think, well, there's no way I'm giving that guy 12 million a year, because if the same thing happens, I ain't paying out this compensation again. So I think he will retreat to type, and I think that's why I keep saying Chris Hughton. I am convinced it'll be someone like Hughton, 3-4 million a year, safe, British, sorted, that's it. I think this experiment of Pellegrini, I think he regrets it. I think he's thinking, I wish I'd never done that. I wish I just kept Moyes now. I should have listened to Gold. I should have listened to Brady. I wish I just kept David Moyes and played it safe. He's gambled. It's not worked. And I think it's almost going to spoil. You're talking about Arteta. I think Pellegrini's spoiled it. I think he won't. I think he's too chicken now. I think he's done his gamble. It's not the young, inexperienced manager you want, but he's gone for the expensive guy, the one with the big, impressive CV. He's gone for the gamble. It's really not worked out. I think he's going to revert back to type. I really do, and that's why part of me thinks, well, let's just keep Pellegrini, because do I want to gamble with Pellegrini improving, or do I want to gamble with Chris Hughton, or seriously gamble that David Sullivan isn't going to go and employ a Chris Hughton? He's going to go and employ someone else that can take over and bring us exciting football. And I think there's more chance of Pellegrini turning it round than I do of David Sullivan going and getting the next appointment right. Hence, that partly makes me stay on the Pellegrini inside, if that makes sense at all.
No, it makes absolute sense. All I would suggest is, were the worst happen and we do lose our next 3 games, then you would feel very differently. Your whole argument, and I do agree with what you say, is predicated upon us winning, drawing, and then losing. And you know what? If we did that for the rest of the season, I'd be happy. I wouldn't change him either. If he suddenly got some form, which is basically getting 4 points every 3 games, that's what you're suggesting, then that would see us through. I think anybody would say, okay, well, and obviously we have to start again, and the dreaming starts again afresh. It's just another year wasted as a West Ham fan. You're a year closer to your grave without winning anything. But I as I say, I do feel everyone's mindset changes, possibly even after a loss to Spurs. It's just what you said about Spurs, about winning. I can actually see that stadium. I'm not saying there won't be anger, but I can see that stadium being empty.
Well,
if we start losing to Tottenham rather than the anger, I see people walking out and getting an early start to their weekend.
The funny old thing is, someone posted on Twitter, someone I follow on Twitter posted something about how he only goes to football for a social event. He's given up. He feels really detached from the football club, and it wasn't for his mates he wouldn't go anymore. And I quoted it and said something along the lines of, "I know quite a few people that feel like this right now, and it's not good." And I do think it's more than football as well as West Ham. I do think that there's a two intertwining and they're not helping each other. And someone said, this is far worse than any protest Sullivan will ever see, people not caring. And I thought that is perfect. That is actually really right. When people stop caring, that is worse than any protest you will see, because when they're protesting, it's because they care. But actually, like you said, if people just walk out the ground, that's worse than people standing up and getting angry, because that's people giving up. People just thinking, you know what, I've had. They
might not even walk out the ground. They might actually walk to the bar. and no, seriously, and you may well find that actually that area, the concourse area, is completely packed out, and the stadium's definitely quiet. Even the boos will be muted because there'll be so few people in the stands. It's do you know what, we're talking like it's the end of the world, and mate, you know what, the opposite may happen, and let's hope it does. Let's hope we get the first goal against Tottenham, and then it's party time. I mean, it's amazing the difference it can make. But there we go. I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone as being pessimistic. It's just hard. You asked before the Burnley game, the predictions. I said I can't see any way to find any confidence for us winning this game, and that was against a team who had lost their last 3. I think Burnley. It's hard to be confident about beating Tottenham, particularly when they got somebody as good and as brilliant as Harry Kane, and our defence is as bad as it is.
Oh, well, we'll talk about Tottenham next week. But just remember, we win on next Saturday against Spurs. We go above them in the league. So for as bad as we are, we'll be above the Champions League finalists. Last one from Twitter that I've got for the screen. I've got some on my phone, and it's from Canning Town Len. And this is an interesting question. I think I know your answer here, but it's a bit of a naughty one from Len, actually. If the level investment was exactly the same, would you be happy with a change of ownership?
Yes, I would. Naughty Len. I would be happy with a change of ownership. Absolutely, yeah. I would because I just don't ever feel. It has to count for something. The move has to count for something. You have to take that into account. We don't start the way we assess people. We haven't got a 12-month rolling contract with our memories. Okay, you assess people by what they've done in their history, and their history, you say, is 10 years in a club. It's been a failure. Their main project has failed in spectacular fashion. What they promised has not been delivered. I think with the level of money, if the level of spend was going to be the same, let's say it was 30, 40 million, I think maybe there's other people who could do it better. I think they could identify a manager better. I think the training ground could be dealt with better. I think there's lots of things that could be dealt with better. You never quite get, what's the word? You're the custodian of the club. When you own a football club, you're the custodian, and the custodian conjures up the image of a nice term. You're looking after something to bequeath to somebody else. You're going to be benevolent. You're going to be kind. I never quite get that. I've always felt that they're passing through. And for that reason, I probably would, because if what you're saying is the investment remains the same, then and you want to stay with Gold and Sullivan, what you're really saying is, actually, for that money, I think they're the best people for the job. and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I would say yes as well. Main reason, go watch Our Cup of Tea from Monday night. That's a big part of it for me. My little rant at the start, I could have done that rant last year, the year before, the year before, the year before, and I could probably do that rant next year as well if they're still here, which it probably will be. I could probably do it next year because they don't change. Football is very short term in a lot of aspects. The manager is short term these days. Results is temporary. Its form is temporary, but the owners are what's here, and if we've had a lot going wrong in the last 4 or 5 years, then there's only one place you can look, and I don't think they value the supporters enough, which I think is bad. I think it's really low. You know, whether it's the away tickets and stuff like that. I think there's too much where they just turn a blind eye a little bit and stuff like that. So yeah, I would take a change of ownership as well. Like you said, it could be spent better. Simple as that. Naughty one from Len, but I think the answer is yes from both of us. We've got some questions that we had on YouTube. Then we'll be going to live chat soon. Gravy Dave, would you have Lee Bowyer as the next manager?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Not done enough for me. I know you're saying like how you got a gamble. I think Arteta's slightly different to Lee Bowyer. I think Arteta's had a better guidance as a shaping him to be a manager than Lee Bowyer has. In the future, maybe, but certainly not now.
Yeah. I don't think you have to. I don't think this has to be. You have to get Arteta now. You don't have to get Bowyer now. Bowyer can go to another club for 2 or 3 years and then we still get him because he obviously is a West Ham fan as well. So.
Andy Orchard, how long do you think the manager has got to turn things around? 3 games? You stick him in 3 games?
Yeah.
I'll say 3. I'll say 3 games as well. When's the next international break? I'm sure there's one in December, isn't there? I think there's one. It must be 3 or 4 games, then there's another one. So I will say then. I think it's got until the next international break. I think there's one in December. Richard West, hi guys. Let's say Manuel Pellegrini has £20 million to spend in January. Who would you say to move on to top up the funds, and who would you try to target? I don't think you can move anyone on. We've already sold all the squad padders. Yes, okay, you could say Sanchez, but 50 pence isn't going to make much to the budget, is it? So this is the problem in the summer when we're selling all the squad players. Is what I was trying to say. You only get to do this once, because once you've sold them all, The next summer, there's no kitty booster. I don't think we've got any kitty booster players going. So I think they're all gone.
No, you're right. Well, the 8 millions for Obiang and that, they add up. We haven't got them anymore. You don't get 8 million for Carlos Sanchez and so on and so forth. You want to get rid of Jack Wilshere, which I don't, but you pay. You're not paying somebody. Someone's doing you a favour. They're taking his wages and so on and so forth. You might get a little bit of money for Ogbonna, but do you want to sell Ogbonna? We need the choice of having Ogbonna or whatever. But I do think for 20 million, people are going to know more than me here. I think for 20 million. Let's say you can flog some. Okay, what you do is you get rid of somebody and you allow Ben Johnson to take that place. Okay, so let's say you sell one of the fullbacks for whatever 5 to 10 million or whatever, right? If you do that and you top it up for 30 million. For 30 million, you get Cyprien or Morgan Sanson for central midfield. For about 30 million, you get one of those in central midfield, and you have half a chance.
I don't think you get him for 30 million, but. One, Pablo Escobar, the guy we're linked to in Germany. I still think he's a really good centre midfielder. I would have liked him. And 2, this is the guy I don't think you'll get for 30 million. Sean Longstaff. I think he's the perfect player to play next to Declan Rice. I think his passing's better than Declan. I think he gets forward more than Declan. So people keep comparing them. I don't think they're similar players. I really don't. And same as Scott.
No, he's like Carrick.
Yeah,
Longstaff's like Carrick.
So I would like to see Sean Long. Would you get him for 30 million? Probably not. But that's who I would certainly be looking at. Thinking, let's get this young English guy in so we can create a real centre midfield of core. Last one I've got for YouTube, then we'll start turning to live chat and all the other ones I've got on my phone. Jamie Smith, do you think we need another goalkeeper in January, even after Fabianski comes back? See, this one was confused me. There was reports that we are looking for a keeper in January, but Fabianski is due back end of December. But I don't think... Do we need one? Probably. But I think it's stupid to have 4 senior goalkeepers on your books, because we'd have Martin, we'd still have Roberto, because no one's going to take him, and we'd have Fabianski, then this new guy, and I think you're stuck. These guys have got 2-year contracts as well, so they're not going in the summer. They're going in the summer that's different, but they're not. They've still got another year ahead of this. So I think no. I think if you need another keeper in January, he's at Wimbledon.
Well, it depends if we're doing better. If we're doing better, I think once Fabianski's in, you can bring him in as backup. I don't want to put him into the team at the moment, just for the sheer number of shots we allow at our goal. We'd be inviting a young lad who's very promising, looks brilliant, into a team that concedes double figures shots on goal. It'd literally be lamb to the slaughter. So I wouldn't draft Trotting at the moment.
In the live chat, get your questions in. I will turn to them in a little minute, and then while I flick through these other questions that I've saved from earlier. Flight time. Do you think this is a temporary dip in form due to a lack of confidence and possibly the injury to Fabianski, or do you think Pellegrini has lost the dressing room?
I think lost the dressing room's too simple. I don't think it's a temporary dip in form, because I don't see any promise or any tactical change to suggest anything's going to alter. I think the players probably quite like Pellegrini, and that's which is absolutely fine. But I don't see, as I mentioned the other night, I see a lack of flexibility now in Pellegrini. In his first season in charge, he switched formations a few times. You might have felt that he was going to change something up. I don't feel that. I feel we have a stubborn Pellegrini now who's just sticking to his formation even though it's not working. Sorry, what was the actual point of the question? What was the question again? It was.
Do you think he's lost the dressing room, or
no? I don't think he's lost. I don't think he's lost the dressing room. I just think he can't motivate them.
I think the Fabianski thing is massive. I think the Fabianski thing ties in with a lack of form or the results, but certainly it doesn't impact the performances as much as we're seeing, if that makes sense, because the performances we're seeing are awful. They're really, really bad. And even with Fabianski, we concede less, but we wouldn't necessarily score more, and that's also an issue at the minute. We're not scoring enough, and that's not down to the Fabianski thing. I think there's something funny going on in the dressing room. I know Declan did his interview after saying about how they were really bad against Burnley and stuff, and he said, like, Monday to Friday it's really good, it's a really positive place to be, but on a Saturday they just lose their heads, everything goes out the window and stuff. The Pellegrini thing's weird though, because like you said, last season he was chucking. I remember being 2-1 down, you'd be throwing on Perez, throwing on Hernandez, going 3 up front or something, just battering their team. We were almost winning and getting points through submission by throwing shots at them through the kitchen sink. This season, we're not seeing it. I actually think he's missing Antonio just as much as Fabianski, because Antonio is his plan B. He's something completely different. Get him off the bench, let him run loose at him, and that'll help against Spurs. I think last season, Pellegrini almost didn't have the players to play the formation he wanted. I think he almost believes he's got the players now. He just can't get them to play the way he wants to. So either A, he's got the wrong players, or B, he's setting them up wrong. And I'm not sure which it is, because I've always been convinced from day one Pellegrini wants to play 4-2-3-1 at West Ham, and it's a formation we're seeing over and over and over again this season. So I think he almost feels like he's got the personnel available to him. He's got Yarmolenko now, he's got the attacking midfielder now. Last season he didn't have either. It's just not working. No, I've chatted Jazza. Do you both think that Sebastian Haller is the striker we should have signed? He thinks that the lack of pace and drive does not fit with the Premier League.
Yeah, I do, because I still think he's a fantastic player. I bet any manager that comes in going to think, thank goodness I got him. He does lack pace, but it's not that we knew anything different anyway. You know, it was a choice, a toss-up between him and Maxi Gomez. Maxi Gomez got even less pace. The drive, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a little bit more, a little bit better attitude from him in many respects. But I think the fact that we're now seeing that it's actually been multiple strikers. If you remember when Geo was saying last season before, he doesn't want to see Hernandez coming off shaking his head and stuff like that. Well, I think if we're getting numerous strikers who are constantly coming off shaking their head, then there's probably something more wrong than just the strikers themselves, particularly if they then go on to score goals elsewhere. If they score goals before they come to West Ham, get frustrated, and then when they leave, start scoring goals again. I think it probably reflects more on West Ham than anything else. I am absolutely convinced Sebastian Haller is a wonderful and brilliant striker. Some really, really good skills. Brings the ball down so well. Brings people into place so well. Well, the last thing I said was just a massive key. Brings people into play so well. I'd say it's his main attribute is bringing people into play. The only thing that's missing at the moment is the people. He has no people to bring into play because there's no one around him, and that's a massive issue. More so than his pace.
Yeah, I'm adamant he's the right striker. He's just been played incorrectly. The problem ain't Sebastian Haller. The problem is the manager playing Sebastian Haller, I think. KPFWT, hi guys. You've probably been asked it before, but would you sell Declan in January for 60 million on the basis that the funds would be reinvested into the squad?
Not a chance. Not a chance. Can you imagine selling Declan Rice and buying 2 Fornals with the money? I mean, it's or comparable players where the money gets wasted. No. Declan's a young player. He's going through a dip in form at the moment. Declan Rice is going to be a fantastic player. I don't think Declan is worth 60 million now, by the way, but I do think one day he will be. And but it's not at the moment. We need his leadership. We actually need more British players rather than releasing some. But the biggest reason, as soon as anybody says anything like that, I shudder, because it's about how the money is going to be reinvested. I know 60 million is a lot of money. I have no faith that 60 million gets spent well at all. And we just spoke about Haller. Haller was 45 million quid. Now, we can all discuss whether or not he's fast, whether he's not, or whether he's the right striker and all the rest of it. What is clear is that we have spent 45 million without a clear idea of how to use him. And it's not the first time we've done this. If you remember Ayew coming in, 20 million without a real clear idea how to use him. This is very, very common in what goes on at West Ham, actually. So make no mistake about it, we could get 60 million for Declan Rice and bring in a couple of players that money and actually have no idea really how to use them, where to play them, or how to implement them.
We could also spend 60 million getting 2 players and they fit exactly and work perfectly well. But I wouldn't be selling them in this window regardless of the money. Ask me again in the summer. 60 million is a bit low, but ask me again about next summer. You might get a different answer. But I say that about every player we've got. Gonzo, I always say every player's got a price. Declan Rice, Diop, Anderson, Lanzini, Haller, doesn't matter. They've all got a price next summer. Every single one of them. Doug Mowat says, aside from exchanging Haller for Arnautovic, we have a team capable of finishing in 10th position. Aside from Pellegrini's poor tactics, what reasons do you have for us to think we're going down?
Well, poor tactics. Tactics and form. It's form is the main reason why we're going down. The amount as we spoke on the podcast last night, the amount of the fact that we run less miles than any other team in the Premier League, that's a massive indicator, isn't it? The fact that we concede more shots than anyone else in the Premier League, that's a massive indicator. It's not, and obviously that comes about through there's 2 things. The running one's fitness, the other one's tactics. So there's lots of things that come into it, and I'm not just looking at one and thinking, we're going down because of the tactics. We're going down. If we're going to summarise it and condense it into one thing, we're going. We know. I'm not even saying we're going down. I'm not even convinced we will. But if we were, it would be because of how we're playing. And you can then break that up and break down the reasons why. But it's not purely because of tactics. There's actually a lack of effort going on. There's a lack of cohesion. There's a lack of direction, and just form. Form is terribly bad, and it's very, very hard when you're on these sort of runs to then pick up the form. That would be my reasoning.
I think a large part of it right now for me is confidence. It's just in many things. It's confidence in the keeper. It doesn't exist. We can see quite often defenders panicking whenever the ball goes near our box. Confidence in our strikers are lacking. Confidence in our creative players are lacking. They're not trying anything adventurous to try and create an attack. But I'll keep going back to the one against Newcastle. Ayeti came into the box. He had a chance to hit it. He had a chance. He turned around and passed it, and that's just confidence. This guy has been banging in goals for Bal before he comes to West Ham. He comes to West Ham, he's in the 18-yarder, it's on his weaker foot, it's on his left foot, but the shot's there for him to take, just hit it, and he turned round. You don't know, but I just felt a bit sorry for him because he's a young lad, and he Like, how bad must it be for you to be a striker but not feel confident to shoot? Like, how? Like, no, but how bad is that though? we've got a keeper that's got low confidence. He doesn't want to save it, and we've got a striker who doesn't want to shoot. That's how low it is. It's just we keep saying, what if we lose against Spurs? But like you said, what if we win? It just gives everybody that big, massive injection of confidence, hopefully, and goes on to our next one. And we might be a bit more positive about the next game. But it's just, at the minute, it's just hard to fathom where that confidence is going to come from. Mikey John on Twitter, he wants to lighten the mood, okay? But I think he's only going to lighten the mood for one of us. What do you want for Christmas? Thought I'd lighten the tune. It's depressing otherwise.
What do I want for Christmas? I've got a new pinball. You can't see it. It's not behind me. It's in the lounge. I'm doing it up at the moment, and there's some bits and pieces I want for that. It's a Star Trek pinball machine, and I want a new Starship Enterprise for it, and something called side blades and more lights and more. I've actually got a little Christmas list that I've given to my wife to pass around my family. It's not. I've not written it to Father Christmas. He stopped, to be honest with you, Gio. Doesn't bother me anymore, Father Christmas. Alas, I'm very sorry to say, very naughty Father Christmas. But I've passed a list around my family, and they have. Like you make a wedding list. I've made a Christmas list, and some things are sort of £3 on it, and then there's other things that are sort of something to £75. I'm not sure anyone going to get me that, but yeah, I'm just going to really jazz up. I'm pimping up the pinball machine, and when it's done, it comes back here and sits there.
Nothing for me. Anyway.
Oh, goodness sake.
You knew I was going to say that. You knew it. 3 points for West Ham. That'd be good. The Three Hammer says, which of the Three Hammers is your favourite?
Actually, me.
Oh, no, you're not getting away.
Hey,
no, you're not.
I'm my favourite.
Wow, that's a cop-out. What a cop-out that is.
I think I like Lee. He's got it. He's got it sorted. I reckon he knows. He knows which side his bread's buttered. He's staying away from those other dodgy two.
Anyway, you're my favourite one as well, actually. The last episode of the Three Hams I watched, I can confirm you were my favourite one.
Those poor boys. Poor old Luke and Paul.
Yeah, stop. Naughty question. We like them all the same. There was a question in live chat. I just missed it. It was a good one. I'll have to come back to it, I think.
That wasn't. Who did that one? It might have been from Lee.
It might well have been. Oh no, it was Moo WHU. Oh yeah, here you go. Would you rather fight an elephant-sized lion or a lion-sized elephant? That's a bit of an easy question, that, isn't it?
Oh, a lion-sized elephant, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to fight a bigger lion.
I went to circus. I don't know if anyone's seen that. Have anyone seen that stuff on the internet where those lions turned against the lion tamers? You know, the lion tamers are whipping them. They're like, I'll tell you what, I thought fair play. I was at the circus once when I was a kid, I was 3 or 4, and they brought a lion round, a lion cub obviously, but it was about the size of me, and they were sitting it on everybody's lap. And they came and sat the lion on my lap, and I was crying, I was screaming, get it off, mummy, get it off. And still to this day, my family laugh about that. But I think my instincts were sound. I was right to not want a lion sat on my lap. I was the only sensible one in the whole circus. And I was only 3 or 4, whatever it was. Maybe I was 14. Don't know. Anyway.
I went to the circus not long ago, and there was lots of lions. But then I said, David Sullivan, enough now, and I left the London Stadium.
How he was Caesar.
But anyway, right. DJ Blokey, at DJ Blokey, congratulations on working together for the last 5 years. Thank you, DJ Blokey. We've done alright, haven't we? And he says, long may it continue, hopefully. But who at West Ham will still be working together at the London Stadium in 5 years' time?
Good one. I like that.
Nobody really.
I will go with. Ben Johnson and the kit man.
See, Noble will be about 37, so I think he'll be away. I think he'll be in between, away from West Ham and not back at West Ham. So I think I think he'll be Oski. I'd like to think Trott will still be here.
That's a good one.
I don't know about Holland. Don't know if Kemp's going to make it. Coventry's having his issues. The other one I'd like to think might make it here, and this is
Golden Sullivan.
No, because we all know in 2 years they're
I know it's a joke.
their 10% tax thing's up in 2 years, isn't it? And have you seen those stories or heard those stories that Tripp tried putting a bid for the club, but Sullivan's valuation put him right off? Have you heard that story?
Yeah, I'm hot on this at the moment, Gio. I'm hot on this. It's I've got someone's thrown a curveball actually and asked me a Qatari question today. I'm just trying to sift all through it at the moment. Yeah, Tripp. I'm adamant Tripp didn't put in a bid for the club. Adamant.
Yeah, I think I don't think it was him as such himself. I think he basically got what do you call it, a consultorium or whatever. He got a group of rich people together over there on the other side of the pond, ready to put in a bid for the club, or certainly were good for it. And then I think it came to Sullivan's valuation and went, I'm out of here. I'll stay over here, thank you very much. But anyway, that's just rumours, if you like, in case you haven't heard it. Gary Smithhurst, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but do you think we should have taken the rumoured 70 million and a player from Man United for Diop in order to have strength in several areas of the squad, e.g. fullback, centre midfielder and a backup goalkeeper? At the time I wasn't sure, but looking back it seems an opportunity missed.
That is a good question. What did he say? No, I'm only joking. Gary, possibly, look, was it 70 million plus a player?
I think it was, I can't remember.
Oh,
it was about 65 million. I think it was about 65 million. There was talk of including a player, but it was like Rojo, wasn't it? Or Smalling, who's now on loan at Roma.
Yeah, I think, they've not got a ton of attractive players there who you would want to bring in the areas where we're weak. I think that's the only thing. Whilst it's nice to think we might have got Anthony Martial or somebody, the likelihood is they probably would have tried to throw old Matic in there, wouldn't they? And they're trying to flog him to us regardless. Yeah, no, I like the question, but it does slightly fall down when you start to consider what players we might have got, because I'm struggling to think of one in central midfield who would have overly.
But then this is what Gary's saying. You could have used the money, you could have used the cash part of the deal to go strengthen the centre midfield.
Then we're exactly where we are before, aren't we? Which is, how badly or well are we going to spend that money? I don't have any confidence. I'm not saying every player we sign is bad. Of course, that's not the case. But some players we sign are bad, and that purchase needs to be right.
But the thing is, the players that we have bought for cash, and I mean decent cash here, okay, under Husillos and Pellegrini, even if they don't work out, you can still get a decent bit of money back for them, though. That's the big thing for me. If Ayeti doesn't work out...
Like her. Right, yeah, okay. Go on, yeah, Ayeti, because it was 8 million, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and if Fornals don't work out, you'd still be able... I'd be surprised if we had to go less than 18 million from a Spanish club for him.
I think you get significantly less than 18 million for a Spanish club for him. I think you lose 10 million on that deal.
Okay, but you still recoup 15 million, don't you? You still get 15 million back.
Right, you're very, very frivolous with that.
I think
10 million there.
I don't think we'd lose that much, though. I think we'd get 18 at the very minimum from a Spanish club, because he's still young and it just hasn't worked out for him in the Premier League. You see it all the time, Di Maria came over here for 60 million, was an absolute flop, and PSG went, that's alright, we'll buy him off here. Memphis
yeah,
Depay.
But that's PSG. That's PSG. They're one of the few rich clubs in the world.
Well, Depay went to Lyon.
Clubs sniff blood. They sniff blood. and they will know we're desperate. They will know. They're not going to come in and say, oh, well, it's all right, we'll take him. We'll know he'll work out. They'll know that it's not worked out. They'll know he wants to leave. We've seen it before. We've even seen it with Arnautovic. We've seen it with Payet. We've seen it with, I know those are players who were doing all right for us. For somebody that's not performing, the club will just turn around and say, look, he wants out. You need rid of him. We're not going to pay anywhere near your valuation. We're going to offer a lot less. And they'll do so, probably knowing that we'll actually end up selling them anyway.
But
Who do we sell? Who do we sell for big money, for big profit? Who do we sell recently, last few years?
nobody.
Or do we always sell at a loss? I mean, this is the thing.
We've made cash here and there. We made 8 million we made 7 million on Ashley Fletcher. We made 6 million on Darren Randolph. We made a couple of million on Arnautovic. We made a couple of million on Dimitri Payet. We basically got our money back for Ayew, I think. Fonte we made a couple of £1 million on. We've broken even thereabouts. A little bit of loss, a little bit of profit here and there on most of the players that we've sold. Some of them have been quite low, like Obiang, but we still made a little profit. But I think for now, I think you get a decent bit back. Same as Sebastian Haller. If in January he said, I want to go now, I'd be surprised if we got less than 40 million for him. I'd be surprised, because they are still good players. And this is why I keep saying, I think this is why, do I have faith in them buying players that will work out for West Ham? It's declining, okay, because of what I've seen from Ayet and Fornals. I'm not saying they're failures yet, but we're now 3 months into the season and they've not had a chance yet, okay. But the ones that have been a flop, and I say flop as in bin them off now, those players were all cheap and or free. Sanchez, Roberto, Wilshere, I guess, because he's crocked all the time. Free, cheap, free. So, but the ones that cost money, Diop. What's he worth now? 60 million maybe? 50 million? Even let's go low end, 40 million. He's doubled the money. What's Balbuena worth now? 8 million? Doubled the money. When he spends cash, I think they're not too bad with it. I'm not saying the players are perfect, but I think the financial arrangement and the financial potential for the players sort of justify that. Now, Yarmolenko's different because you'd have to take a loss on him because of his age, okay? But I do think, generally speaking, I think they do okay. And this is the difference between sort of Husillos signings and David Sullivan signings, because we've been selling all the David Sullivan's ones for a couple of £1 million profit at the most, but now we're looking at Diop thinking, well, in the summer it was £40 million profit after a year. So I think, I think Roberto and the fact that we're not seeing Fornals yet is overshadowing the good business they've done. I think there is bad business, but I think at the minute it's a big black cloud and it's darkening the good stuff they've done. In hindsight, should we have sold Diop? I'll say yes, because I don't think Diop's been great this season. I think we could have done with that extra 60 million in hindsight. I think Chris Smalling's done really well at Roma. So all those three things, I would have said, yeah, okay, in hindsight, we should maybe have shifted on Diop. But there wasn't many people complaining when we didn't sell him. What are you writing down?
Never you mind. I'll tell you afterwards.
But yeah, so that one for me, I would say, yeah, possibly. I would have possibly have sold Diop with hindsight. Graham Morris. Now, this is a player. We'll do one or two more, then we'll bail. But Graham Morris is a player that we've had a couple of different questions about. So I picked out Graham Morris with one here. Do you feel Anderson has lost his attacking identity through having to track back more?
It's maybe. I mean, I do see, obviously, he gets a lot of criticism, Anderson, and you can't have it both ways. I'm not talking about this to the person who's asked the question, but some people accuse him of being lazy and some accuse him of tracking back too much. You can't have it both ways. I swear he got loads of stick. He cleared the ball off the line, didn't he, in the Newcastle game? And he was getting stick for not being involved. So I don't know. I don't know why he's being asked to do that. I guess it's
because he's the only one that's fast enough.
Yeah, well, mate, you're probably right. Yeah, I mean, in which case, what a damning indictment of what it is. Probably, I'm not even sure how much he's being asked to do it. I'm not sure that many people are being asked to defend. I'm not sure that many people are being asked to get forward. As I say, as a stink Kevin Keegan about it, where there's actually precious little instruction or direction going on. Maybe he feels he has to, but it's certainly, whether you think it's because he's getting back or anything else, it's certainly him and a few others, the attacking players playing in this team, is having an impact on them. It's certainly not what they, there's you could get a lot more better out of these players in an attacking sense, and I'm sure there are ways to liberate Anderson so he's not having to do that. Some tracking back, yes. Following your marker, yes. But you wouldn't want somebody with as much threat going forward as Anderson clearing it off the line, because you actually want him to be the furthest forward player when we win the ball back, because he's the one that's going to... You saw it when Newcastle played us with Sam Maxime, when he was the guy, and they'd release it there. It's no good Haller being the furthest forward, so I almost don't want him there at all. Pardew used to infuriate me. I like Pardew as a manager, but whenever we had a corner against us, he used to pull everyone back. He wouldn't leave anyone up on the line. I think it's a silly move. Who am I to tell a professional footballer what to do? But I always find it a silly move. I would be telling Anderson, if I was the manager there, look, we are going to try and counter here. When we win the ball back, I want you on the shoulder of their last defender. I don't want you at the back. I want you are going to then run in behind, you're going to skin them, and I would then be instructing whatever you say, Longstaff. I would have someone like Longstaff in there, would be my long passer, and I would be saying to whatever centre back or whoever got the ball, the moment we win that ball back, get it to Longstaff. Because I don't want the central defender being clever and trying to spring the pass. But I want to attack in two more passes. Right, get it to Longstaff, unless you're David Luiz or something. You know what I mean? But get it to Longstaff, and then you play him in. And he's completely, for counter-attacking football, I would suggest Felipe Anderson is almost 40 metres out of position. Not a couple of yards. He's almost half the length of the pitch out of position. And that, as much as anything, that's going to have an impact on how he plays.
That Newcastle thing requires context. You know, their chance that got cleared offline, was it from our corner? Do you remember by any chance?
I don't remember too well, mate.
Because if it was, it would make sense, because he's probably standing outside the box, so they've broken. He's arguably further back than our centre backs, so that makes sense. So he's got to run back. But I get your point. The thing is, I think he does enough tracking back. Okay, I think I'm happy with his defensive contributions, but I don't think he does as much running back and defending as some people make on, because a lot of the time when I'm at the game, he'll lose the ball and not move. You'll start walking and people go, come on. And I think that's why when people say, what, he's not defending that, I think that's because the people at the game have seen him give the ball away. They break, and he's just wandering back. He's not running back. He's not bursting an ass to get back and get the ball. So I think he does enough. I don't think he does overly much. And it doesn't excuse why, quite often against Burnley, against Newcastle, against Everton, against Sheffield United, when actually he's had the ball at his feet 40 yards out and he does a sloppy pass. That's got nothing to do with tracking back. His performance ain't up to it at the minute, and I think it's down to confidence. But I'll tell you what's not helping him. Pellegrini keeps subbing him. He's the first sub he does at the minute, and it's not right, because the Sheffield United one, he was growing into the game. He was starting to stretch your leg. The game was opening up into Anderson territory, and you took him off. And you thought, when you remove Anderson, you remove all the pace. I know you keep saying it, and I agree with you. You remove the pace when you take Anderson out. We want to play counter-attacking football. We're almost set up to play counter-attacking football, so you take off the one guy that can play counter-attacking football. And I think against Everton it was the right thing to do, because Anderson was stinking bad in the first half. But the games that's come after that, I don't think he's been awful. I don't think he's been any worse than the other ones that's stayed on the pitch when he's gone off. And I think Pellegrini's hindering him by removing him. And actually, if anything, I think he'd almost be better bringing him on for the last half hour than taking him off and missing the last half hour, because the last half hour is actually when he can impact the game more, when he's fresh, because he has got good stamina. I don't think it's any coincidence that we're covering the least ground out of the teams at the minute in the league, but he's playing half a game, because he covers a lot of the ground, whether it's running forward or running back. So when you take out the guy that covers the ground, our stats are going to drop. So it's no coincidence. There is a correlation there between Felipe Anderson playing time and us covering less ground. He doesn't help himself.
I mean, it's funny. Anderson's a funny one, because when we did the Burnley preview with Nicky said on social media it's almost like you can't criticise Anderson without, people being on you. And I totally agreed with what he said, and he's absolutely right. But I also agree the opposite is true. You can't praise Anderson without everyone being on you as well, and it's really it's a really funny one actually. It really does divide opinion. To use the old Marmite thing, it's funny. It's a funny one. I think I used to sit when Tompkins was coming through. I used to sit next to somebody who used to always say, "Oh, Tompkins," and we used to laugh. Right, me and my mate used to nudge each other and go, "Here we go, here he goes again." Tompkins, and we did. We always never forget it because we had a corner and he came out and he scored from the corner, and as he was sort of jumping up in the air, he goes, and he started. He wanted to say, Tompkins, hey, go. And we always laughed that Tompkins could turn into Pele and run the length of the pitch and score a goal. And he goes, Tompkins, you should have passed that, or something like that. And it is indicative, and everyone's sat next to a fan like that. And I think some people have made up their mind that Felipe Anderson's really good, and some people have made up their mind that he's no good. And I think that's what you get a lot of. He really does divide opinion.
It's difficult to not do that though, because there's 3 or 4 players. I think when you criticise them, when we do a review, if you think, "Oh, great, I've got to criticise this player," I'm going to get a barrage of abuse in the comments. People are going to disagree with me. And Anderson's one of those players. Declan Rice is another one. You can't criticise Declan Rice because then people will throw everything at you about his age and stuff. And you think, here we go, But it's a bit like, I don't know, you could probably say you don't criticise Lanzini enough. You could probably throw that at us, and I think I think it's a fair comment, to be honest with you. So it's just one of those. But there was one review we did, and it was Antonio Anderson. And I said they had a good game or whatever. Someone left a comment going, are you just Geo? Are you just going to keep picking on that player? Is it your new Chiati? I was like, I didn't even say anything bad about him. Like, I think it was yourself and Charlie. I think it was yourself with Charlie. I think it was yourself actually said someone didn't have a good game, and I stuck up for him. But the guy could have said to me, "Are you going to keep on going at him? You forced Chiati out." I thought, hang on a minute, I'm not even saying anything bad. I know. I think it's probably Anderson because I fall into the I'll criticise Anderson category more than most. Okay, I probably fit into that category, but it's because I know there's a damn talented player in there. There is a damn talented. He should be our Dimitri Payet, not to that level. Yeah. But he should be winning us points. Okay. Now you don't ever want to be a one-man team, but I think you can make if you go around the Premier League, you can make a case for most teams. You can pick out their main player. Okay, when you come to West Ham, Felipe Anderson should be the name you come up with. Anderson. It's not been. I mean, the guy's not scored in about 25 games.
Yeah.
Now, regardless of form or tactics or whatever, for a £40 million attacking midfielder who's played a lot of time, and yes, he's getting subbed now, but last season he wasn't getting subbed that much. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, and it's not because of ability, because he's got it. I think it's his application, and I think sometimes when you watch him, he's sloppy passing and he shrugs his shoulders and whatever. You just want to go and throttle him because he's a damn good player. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about Anderson. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we disappear?
No. I'm just. It's really raining outside, as I've been saying. Paranoid, thinking, how well did I build this thing? No. We've covered lots, mate. We've covered lots.
Anyway, thank you for joining us on this cup of tea. As always, drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. It helps us out. And what also will help us out is if you copy the URL and paste it onto your social media, whether you got Facebook or your Twitter or whatever. Just say, hey, this cup of tea was all right, actually, because if you're listening to this, you've made it to the end, so it must have been okay at the very worst case scenario. So thank you for listening. Gonzo, thank you for joining me, especially after your parents' evening.
Very, very good children tonight, by the way. I don't mean us. I mean the children at parents' evening. So they got a packet of chocolate buttons, and then and there you go. So, but thank you, sir, and thank you to everybody for watching.
Catch you in a bit.